So the other day, I took my brand new CFMoto Ibex 450 out for its first off-road ride. It was about 200 miles with probably about 80% of that being off-road. And now just today, I got back from another ride, which I'm soaked, I'm wet and dirty here, a little bit cold. But I want to share with you all some findings I found on this bike as far as its off-road performance. Now, the first topic I want to start on is going to be these tires, the CST Ambro A4s. I've never heard of the brand. I mentioned them in my first impressions video, and a lot of people said it's a pretty popular brand over in China. They make a lot of other manufacturer tires. I don't know, I've never heard of them, but as I stated, they are a spit and clone of the Scorpion Pirelli tires. I don't know if they collaborate and make them together, but they look exactly like them. And the downfall of them is there's no counter block. It's just that straight opening right across each little tread right there. And if you're in any mud or slick sand, something like that, should have done it opposite, slick mud or sand, you're gonna feel it. That back tire is going to dance around on you. You'll feel the front dancing around a little bit. But if you're on just basic fire roads, which is a lot of what we have down here, and what I honestly think a lot of us are gonna do, heck, that's pretty much what I do on my Africa Twin and even the dual sports. That's what a lot of us do. And yes, these tires will do you fine. I don't know about longevity and reliability of them, but I'll tell you what, the core performance on a basic fire road or something, they perform really well. And even on the street, they feel very good on the street. So again, if you're just gonna do light off-roading, I think you'll be fine. But for me, I want something with a little bit more bite, and my new tires are already inbound. And now I want to talk about this dash a little bit. More importantly, your controls. And I think there's a little misconception out there. Some people even left in my comments about it. More importantly, being the ABS and the traction control, which you all know you got the single button over here. You hold it down and then it turns off traction control and ABS. If you want just one or the other, you have to go into the screen. We all know that. But as far as actually holding it, which you saw in my first impressions video as well, where the traction control stayed on and the ABS went off whenever I pressed it. Well, I think some people think it's speed oriented, which I did all this testing out there, and it's really not, because you can be going 50 miles an hour, activate or deactivate all of them. What it is the throttle. If you got any throttle or even the smallest amount, it'll keep traction control on but turn ABS off, and vice versa. If you want to turn it on, if you got any throttle on there, it's going to turn ABS off but leave traction control on. Because I was confused in my first, but I'm like, okay, well, what's going on? Is there a bug in the system? Do I need an update or something? Well, no, it's not speed oriented, it's all throttle. So again, even if you're off-road, make sure there's no throttle on it whatsoever, and then you can activate and deactivate both of them at the exact time. So learning something myself, and hopefully that helps you guys out as well whenever you're off-road. And another really cool thing about this bike and the dash here is you can control every single setting and option within this dash while you're riding. And that is crazy to see. Like Triumph or Honda, any other manufacturer pretty much blocks you from controlling stuff. It's a safety thing, right? Heck, even in your cars, you can't customize the screens while you're moving. Well, on this bike, you can adjust everything from the brightness to your settings of information and the time. It is crazy how you can control everything on this bike while it's moving. I'm honestly shocked that made a pass coming into the United States. Now, a really important thing to mention with this bike that I think a lot of you might be concerned with is the riding position and feel, especially off-road. Now, as I mentioned before, I'm pretty much right at 6 feet. Maybe 5'11", I like to claim 6 feet, inseam of 32 right there. And when you fling a leg over this bike, like there's no denying it, like it is low, which is really good. If you're a little shorter and say an Africa Twin's been too big for you or something, this bike is low. I can stand up, flat-foot it, dance it around. If I sit down, I got a little crease in there. I personally am definitely going to order that rally seat, the tall rally seat right there. As much as I like sitting in this bike, I just need to be higher up. And where that comes into play is especially over here within my legs. Like even going to the brake pedal, I feel like I gotta lift my entire leg up to get to it. I can't just bend my ankle that high up because it's already down at such an arch right there. Now when I stand up and ride, it's perfectly fine. This bike just sits really low. Yes, for an extensive period of time, your legs will get a little uncomfortable. And then again, having to hit that brake brake. It's just too low. I need the taller seat myself. But again, if you're a low rider, you're gonna love how low this is. But on a bright side, this seat is incredibly cozy, and I'm kind of scared about going to the rally seat. I hope it's as plush as this. So if you have it, let me know down in the comments. Is it as plush as a stock one? Because oh my gosh, that feels so darn good. This is easily the most comfortable stock seat on a bike I've ever used. Now, if you're one to use a tank bag like myself, I mean, this is just something I need. I keep all of my important stuff in there, whether it be my paperwork, my phone, my wallet, whatever. I just like it in my tank bag. But on this bike, one recommendation I really recommend you to do here is put a little bit of protection underneath. You can see right here, I put a felt pad underneath it. Now, this might have to be changed eventually because it'll get dirty and muddy and whatnot. But if you don't put this there, this paint scratches so easy. Like I'm still getting a little bit on the sides over here, but it truly scratches. Even down here by the straps, it's gonna scratch a little bit. So make sure to put some protection down if your tank bag, again, just kind of has that rubberish kind of protection on the bottom so it's not shaking around, scratching up your bike. And while we're up here on the dash, something that I did that made this bike so much better is I just loosened these 4 bolts and kicked the bars up just a pinch, a very little amount. Then it's 2 bolts just to adjust your levers right there. Now again, this will depend on how you like to ride in your position, but for me, standing up and everything, it just made it feel so much better. And the cool thing is, as far as the controls right here, even when I kicked it forward a little bit, these controls are so much easier to handle. What I caught myself with the like flashers or the blinkers here, I caught myself hitting the horn quite a bit. But now that I kicked it forward and it's tilted up just a pinch, I'm not getting that issue anymore. It's bam, right there. I can control everything super easy. So 2 benefits there. The controls are a lot easier to control. And again, the position just of the bars standing and sitting is just a whole lot more comfortable. And also, while we're talking about the bars, I want to talk about the clutch and then also your brake lever. You see you got this little wheel right in here. You can actually adjust these to pull it in or out, and when it's just sitting there, it's pretty tough. So just kick it forward a little bit and then you can spin it. Again, if you want it to come out a little bit more, or spin it the opposite way, and then it will come in a little more. And it really helped out as far as my responsiveness if I want to just let it out right there and then catch that sweet spot. And you can do it with the brake as well. So if you adjust it, you don't got to pull it in as far. It's just a little short pull right there. So this is going to be personal preference. How do you like it? But definitely give it some time. As you're going out there, just adjust it fully maxed and then to the lowest and see how you like it. Like I've been liking on the fully lowest right there. So it's just snappy, a quick little pull, but kind of hidden right there. So just make sure you play around with those and find that sweet spot for yourself. Now, you'll remember in my first impressions video, I mentioned this little plastic rack on the back. It's going to be kind of chintzy. It's not really going to hold up off-road. Probably need an accessory, which they do have cheap ones out there. It's like 50 bucks or something, and it becomes metal back there. But it worked perfectly fine. Like back here, I got tools and food and drinks and stuff, and it didn't budge or bounce around whatsoever. Again, it is attached also to the metal bracket, so I got both supports right there. But I think we're going to be perfectly fine. And honestly, the bag setup I have here, using Nelson Rig Hurricane bags, y'all know I absolutely swear by these, and they fit perfect. I think they look great, and this is pretty much perfect as far as storage kicking around the trails. I really like this setup, but this rack I think is perfectly fine as well. Now, unfortunately, I did also drop the bike for its first time today, and my crash bars haven't came in yet, so I was like, oh my gosh, I was kind of nervous, you know. But believe it or not, nothing really happened to the bike. Now, of course, I was going super slow. I was just trying to turn around on the bike right there, and then bam, it just went down, because you do still feel the top weight of this bike. It's not drastic, but you do feel it, and if it gets too far over, it's gonna go down. But talking about it just going down like that, yeah, these hand guards are pretty darn chintzy, and they really didn't do too much, right? Those gotta be changed for sure. But again, keep in mind, I was not going fast, but for that simple, like, kind of maneuver, switchback type of turn, nothing really happened to it. It really kind of just rested on the bars right there. But I would still recommend crash bars and definitely replacement hand guards, which are both inbound here, which we'll do in our mod video as far as protection. But even with that little drop, not bad. As nervous as it was, there was really no issues with the bike. Now, a lot of people have been asking about the suspension on this bike and how is it? Is it soft? Is it firm? And I've heard a lot of different feedback from people. Some people saying it's too soft, some people saying it's too firm. Well, I'm going to tell you, and I'm at stock settings, and I believe CFMoto states it's on setting 10 out of how many, I don't know. Again, I haven't adjusted it. This is just straight up stock, which it feels pretty darn good. It is on the firmer side. You put soft, medium, and then firm. I would put it in between medium and firm. Like when you're on the road, it's not like jarring by any means, but when you're off-road and you got some of those washouts, you do feel it's kind of like you are going to feel it. Like I hit one pretty big divot and my whole hand just went down in the front. It never bottomed out by any means, but you are going to feel it, especially if you're on like washouts or something like that. I think it is perfectly fine. That is a mod I will not be doing on this bike. I think the suspension on this is pretty darn good, and we're talking stock settings. I haven't adjusted anything yet. I really like the suspension on it, but yes, it is in between that medium and firm setting right there. Now, you all know there's two mods I absolutely love testing on bikes, one being tires, the other being windshields, but I want to talk about this stock windshield. And again, as we're talking about off-roading, why I want to mention it here is in our full position, this is it right there. So on road, it's really not much protection. It's enough protection, but it's not much. You know, I'm definitely going to try out some bigger windshields for this, but it's really cool. Whenever you go into that lower position here, it is so nice off-road because you just see over the dash, you see what's in front of you. Like, it is phenomenal. And yes, it is incredibly easy to adjust, which you can do with either hand. But again, talking about the windshield being minimalistic, if you're doing primarily off-road, I think you're going to be perfectly fine with the stock one. It's just if you're going to do more longer road trips, then we're probably going to want to go with a big one. But again, it was really nice using this small windshield off-road. Now, as I mentioned in my first impression video about the foot pegs, make sure you take off the rubber mounts, which mine were just plugged into. They weren't screwed in. Let me know if yours are screwed in, but again, it's not something I'll ever put back in here. And let me tell you what, these foot pegs are nice. They are perfect. In mud or anything, the sand, it all just filters right through it. You got nice big teeth right there, and they are bigger foot pegs than you see on your basic Honda or Triumph or something like that. These are pretty nice stock foot pegs. Just make sure you take out those rubbers if you're doing any off-road. Now let's talk a little bit about performance and feel of the bike off-road. Number one, as far as the throttle, it's not snappy, it's not snatchy by any means. Again, how I showed you adjusting the tension or the little levers, how you can bring them further and closer, make sure to dabble with that and you'll be able to find a really nice sweet spot for you, but it's not snatchy whatsoever. But the raw performance of this bike, the feel, the sound, and again, when you're on-road or off-road, like, holy smokes, it feels so good. It's just perfectly in tune with you. And then is the sound, like, wow, it sounds so darn good. Like, it just shocks me how good this feels off-road. And talking about how good this bike performed off-road, I mean, I even took it down some single track as I probably shouldn't have, especially with the stock tires. You know, probably want a little bit more bite. But it felt good. It felt just like my rally. Now, is it a little tiny dual sport like a 300L? No, it's not. But it felt very similar to my rally, right? I can just manage that weight and whip it around right there. The power delivery was just smooth. It felt so good. Like, I want to do more single track on this bike. It felt that good. And then when I'm getting into those fire roads, which again, I think a lot of us are primarily going to be doing, it felt so planted. It felt so good. The only thing I would honestly say changing for me, like I mentioned, is going to be those tires in those seats. But as far as the bike as its core, off the showroom floor right here, it was seriously, shockingly very, very good. And we got into some sticky situations out there.
That did not go as planned.
I was going to take this bike across that if we wouldn't have gotten kicked off the land. There were no signs saying no trespassing or anything, but someone came down and said, hey, it's private property. So we turned around and went back. But I was going to attempt to get this bike across there. And I honestly wasn't really worried about it. Maybe that's because there were a few young bucks that could help me hoist it across if need be. So all in all, the new CFMoto Ibex 450 or 450 MT totally blew me away off-road. Heck, it does on-road as well. I just want to ride it more and more. Maybe it's a good thing my brand new Africa Twin's in the shop, because I would be primarily wanting to ride that. But this bike is, oh my gosh, again, I've said it over and over in this video, it's a shocker. It performs so well in whatever situation you put it in, and you just want to continue riding it more and more. Put the brand aside. Again, if you're not looking at CFMoto, this bike is a game changer as far as in riding situations and also the motorcycle market, I truly believe. So if these videos of the Ibex 450 have been helping you out, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell, because we'll have a lot more coverage coming on this. Again, as far as mods, more tests, more rides, and we also have many other bikes we're building out. That SCL 500 for off-road, that's super fun. Make sure to check out the coverage on that. That's a really fun project. That Trail 125, and again, hopefully I get my Africa Twin back soon. But again, if you're just interested in the Ibex 450, we're gonna have a lot more coverage on this. And again, this is my bike. This is an owner's bike, not a media, a test ride or anything like that. So you can get those real raw feedback on this motorcycle. So again, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell. And I hope to see you on the next adventure. Bye now.